DA got that dope.
Hi, I'm Ethan Power, and today we're going to have Tim Donnelly and Nikki Wiesner. We're going to be doing some interviews on gun control.
Blow the brains out the coop.
Nikki Wiesner.
Well, hello, Ethan.
What a pleasure to see you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So, doing a gun control interview right now. What is your take on gun control?
Well, I guess first we better start out with the Second Amendment of the United States. The Second Amendment to the United States Constitution protects the right of people to keep and bear arms, and was adopted on December 15th, 1791. And let's just read it. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Sounds like the Second Amendment to me.
Yeah. So if our country is founded on the Constitution and that's what makes us a republic, and we value those freedoms and those ideals that make the United States, then the Second Amendment would be a really important one. So it says it shall not be infringed. So that would mean gun control would be out the door.
Makes sense. So we have a couple other questions. Do you think having more gun control will help the problem or worsen it, and why?
I think it would worsen the problem because it makes criminals out of the God-fearing legal people who would have to jump through all these hoops to go get the guns, where the criminals, they're just going to buy the guns. They're going to get the guns, they're going to trade the guns for drugs, they're going to get the guns no matter what. And so when criminals have access to the guns but the law-abiding people don't, then that's not a good thing.
How much gun control do you think where do you think the breaking line is that would violate our Second Amendment? So what restrictions do you think may be good, and what do you think would cross the line? If any.
I think gun training should be good, but I think that gun safety and gun instruction should start in the home. That if a father feels that his son is ready for a gun and he's been trained for a gun and he knows how to take care of a gun and keep it safe away from younger children in the family, then that should be the defining make or break. And I think if a father thinks his son's ready for a gun and he's able to have one, then he should have one. It shouldn't be determined by the government or any outside entity. I think it should start in the home.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Nikki Wiesner. I'll see you another day.
Thank you.
In some more gun control interviews.
And God bless America.
Hi, Tim. I'm Ethan.
Hey Ethan, how are you?
Doing good. Today we're going to learn about gun control.
Awesome.
So, Mr. Donnelly, what's your take on gun control?
Well, first of all, there is no such thing as gun control. There's only people control. That's where the government has all the guns and all the power, and the people have no ability to resist the government. They have no ability to contest their viewpoint. And history's littered with examples. You've got Nazi Germany. Very first thing they did is come in and take all the guns away from the people, and then literally the people they didn't like or didn't agree with, they systematically murdered them. And so whenever people talk about gun control, I just think, are you a complete mindless idiot who wants to give all control over to somebody else over your life and your destiny, or do you want to have some say in it yourself? I mean, how do you control guns? There's guns in the cabinet behind us, right? You can see them there clearly. They're not hurting anybody.
They're just sitting there.
Until an individual takes that gun, which is a weapon, it is a dangerous weapon.
Yeah.
It is designed to shoot and destroy the target. Until an individual human being does something, there is no threat from a gun.
Do you think it should be harder to obtain guns for young people?
No.
Why?
Look, it's already illegal for young people to buy guns. Okay, so let's look at the laws. In most states, you can own a long arm, meaning a rifle, at age 18.
Yeah.
And there are varying amounts of restriction in terms of background checks and all that. But everyone to buy a gun anywhere has to present an identification.
Yeah, but you can't do that. You can't have a handgun until you're 21.
Right, you can't have a handgun until you're 21. And a handgun is much more of an issue in terms of people's concern about crime or school shootings because it can be concealed. But here's the thing. If you look at most of the school shootings, because that's what the young question is about, right? Mm-hmm. What's going to happen on a school campus? They all happen in areas where the school has been declared a gun-free zone, and almost every time the gun was not bought legally by the young person. The gun was taken out of the parent's gun cabinet. The gun was stolen from somebody else. And so it's a misnomer. You could pass all the new laws and restrictions on a young person's right and not change the result at school shootings. But here's a question that I think everyone who's in high school ought to be thinking about. You could be drafted at age 18 in this country, right? Mm-hmm. You could be sent off to war. But in the state of California, they just passed a law. You can't own a long arm or a shotgun or any gun until you're age 21. So you could go die for this country, carry a military-grade rifle, and kill other people in defense of our freedom, but you can't defend yourself and you can't even exercise the Second Amendment here at home. That is total, absolute tyranny.
So, lastly, Bernie Sanders talks about, I think it was either in a speech or a tweet, that we shouldn't really ban all guns from having, or we should ban all civilians from having, or restrict most guns from civilians and to let the police take on that action with, if someone's coming inside to shoot in your house. He's saying that calling the police would be a much better option than to actually have the weapon inside your house to defend yourself. What do you think about that?
I think that every free, loving person in this country ought to send Bernie Sanders a copy of Schindler's List. Mm-hmm. Because that's what happens when the cops and the government have control of firearms and the individuals don't. And look, he's an idiot. He's a complete, abject idiot who wants socialism here to start with. But not only does he want socialism, this is very important to note, he wants totalitarianism. That's where the government has all the power. That means if they didn't like the fact we were doing this interview, let's say that we were praying and had a Bible in here. In Soviet Russia, they could burst through the doors and literally drag us all off to Siberia. We'd never be seen again, all because we dared to worship God. I mean, think about that.
That's too extreme.
So when you talk about the Second Amendment, you can't not talk about the First Amendment, the right to worship as you please and see fit, and not be harassed and intimidated and dragged off and shut down and censored by the government.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't make any sense, I don't think.
What I wanted to say is Bernie Sanders is a fucking idiot.
Well, let's do one more question. All right, sweet. Thank you, Tim Donnelly.
My pleasure.
Good interview. And you just want to say that gun control is bad, right?
Gun control sucks.